Jhin Support, an AD carry that usually requires hundreds of farm to even work, is now being played for his utility. Invented by a challenger Korean solo queue star, and now being played by an actual world champion support, this is a new top tier build that doesn't just win lanes, it dominates them straight from level 1, with long range artillery and a new support build that makes sure Jhin is still a carry. This is one of the most interesting counter picks we've ever seen, finally having something that can beat the best meta supports, and may even become meta soon itself. Let me show you how it works. But first, this is my Alienware R13, the PC I've used for gaming, editing, recording, streaming for the past 12 months now, and the best thing is they're sponsoring this video, so you can get one just like it at the link in the description. With season 13 just starting, now is a great time to upgrade. Say goodbye to blaming lag this season and instead focus on perfect performance, even in hectic teamfights. As a disclaimer, it's not going to turn you into Faker, but it will unlock your full potential. But of course it's also great for playing other games. This PC can handle all of the newest AAA games. This week I've been playing the new Plague Tale, and it's quite similar to League, tons of rats everywhere, but in this game none of them are on your team. It looks amazing, running at ultra settings, and the R13 handles it with ease. There are so many amazing looking games coming to PC, so it's great to have a PC that can run them. And outside of gaming, it's also perfect for intensive work, like editing these videos, streaming and playing games at the same time, or even intensive things like 3D modeling. I'm also a big fan of the customizable lighting, that you can change to pretty much any color to fit your theme. So if you want to upgrade your gaming life, click the link in the description, and you can even get it with Prime delivery in some areas. So you could get your new Aurora R13 pretty much tomorrow. Super easy to set up, just plug it in and start playing games. Thanks so much to them for sponsoring. Back to Jhin Support. Let's start with where it came from. The solo queue star that came out of nowhere to invent it. This is a player whose name literally translates to really fun damage supports. A Korean challenger off-meta support specialist. As you may guess, he reached high elo with the weirdest picks possible. Things like Z support, Azir support, and more recently Jhin. He is a player that is all about discovery, having an idea, and seeing if his perfect mechanics and decision making can be enough to turn it into something special. After some testing, he realized this pick wasn't just fun, it was actually really good. The base damage alone meant that he could kill 2 vs 2 easily, and push even other challenger players out of the lane. One day, our off-meta player ended up in a game with Beryl, the 2-times world champion, from DRX in 2022 and Damwon Gaming in 2020. Beryl is known as a Heimerdinger support specialist, and in this game, Beryl realized that Jhin Support may be the counter everyone's been looking for, and so he started to test it himself. So why does it work? Well, instead of explaining it, let's just watch Beryl's laning, and it should immediately become clear. Level 1, Jhin has 4 bullets and his Q. As a champion that's solely played as a damage dealer, he's really good at that one specific job. So at level 1, Beryl uses this damage to shove wave, using his Q grenade and high damage auto attacks. If enemies try to trade, he's happy to, knowing that any long fight they take, he will have more DPS for, even having 4th shot as an execute if needed. So at level 1, it's common to see these Jhin supports flashing forwards to pressure and look for a huge burst, pushing the enemy out of the lane already and immediately getting a lead. Having full control of the wave, Jhin gets level 2 first and takes W, his main CC tool. This is not only a great CC, but also very long range. So he starts to play a very high pressure style, poking constantly with this range, and auto-attacking anyone who walks up to the wave. Level 3 is where the pick becomes completely new. So far Jhin is playing like a high pressure range support. There is one drawback to this style, overextending, but luckily he now takes his traps, being able to spread these around the whole of bot lane. Not worrying about mana or having to get the CS, he can instead take time to place them in specific locations, putting them in all of the choke points they could be ganked from. So if anyone dares to enter his lane, Jhin will spot them instantly and have plenty of time to run away. He also has a really cool trick with this aggressive trap, placing one outside of the wave so it doesn't get activated, near the enemy tower but not in vision. It keeps enemies sort of trapped under their tower, but if they do walk up and you know someone is about to step on it, a W prediction can tag them just as they hit it. If you throw the W out first, they're probably not going to dodge as they know they won't get rooted, but then the trap gets activated and it's too late for them to react. They get locked down and it's a free kill. It's very hard to execute, and that's why Beryl is a world champion. The best way to play this support is with a high range AD carry like Caitlyn. They can force the enemies behind their tower and keep poking. He's quite similar to Heimerdinger in this way, controlling the lane and having the high damage to kill people, but he also beats Heimerdinger as he can can easily kill his turrets, and outpush him. The potentially game-changing part of this pick is the completely new synergies he can have with some AD carries, like for example this Swain bot lane with Jhin Support, pulling enemies right into Jhin's route for a long CC chain. Swain is the one delivering the CC, and Jhin is the one delivering the damage. It's not like a normal bot lane setup. You simply cannot stay in lane against these two champions. Your choices are either to sit behind tower and lose the game slowly, or die over and over again when you try and CS. Jhin is such an oppressive support pick, especially if you have a CC combo. Level 6 he gets ult, and he can use it to finally dive the enemies who you've been pushing under tower all game. His game plan is simple: use this high pressure style to get 2v2 kills, dive people and take tower plates, chipping down tower and taking it as early as possible, thanks to their double ranged bot lane. Then he bases buying Umbral Glaive for the damage and utility for clearing wards. Then they rush to top lane, and right away he has a new job. He's not farming or pushing the wave, he is now the trap guy, so he runs into river to set up more traps, and wards to make sure immediately they are protected. Then once he knows they're safe, he goes straight to top tower, same plan, high pressure, avoiding ganks and taking tower plates, forcing his team ahead in gold, ideally getting 10 full plates before they fall off, and a big CS lead for his AD carry. Usually in Korean solo queue, this lead is big enough to win the game. You can do the same strategy in mid, setting up traps in the river for protection, then pushing the tower. If anyone tries to defend, you ult them and safely dive. Even if the enemies make a good play, it's really hard to stop this strategy once it gets rolling, and if someone dives onto you, you can kite into the traps and use W to lock them down on top of them, giving you time to deal lots of auto attack damage. Some champions are good at ganking because they're mobile. Jhin is the opposite of this, immobile but very high range. So Jhin can roam from level 2, and add this extra couple of seconds of CC to a gank, to guarantee the enemy's not going to escape. After early game, Jhin is turning into a real AD carry. It's funny to watch because usually AD carries are the main targets, as they are the ones who can output enough damage to kill multiple people. But when there are 2 AD carries on your team, enemies often have to just pick one to kill them, and leave the other one to DPS. So Jhin can just stand there, hitting and getting kills. People don't expect him to do real damage. It's an overload of DPS for your team, and it's not just DPS. In early fights, Jhin has so many ways of being effective. Watch this Korean player and how much he's able to do, even with 0 farm and just support items. First off, some damage with ult, using it to deter enemies who are running through this choke point, then using his burst to get some damage off, almost killing this Heimerdinger. He swaps targets, then acting as a DPSer to finish off a kill, then another route which removes Tristana from the fight, then joining his AD carry to protect them and kill the diver. Meanwhile, the Heimerdinger who he almost killed earlier is finished off, a kill that Jhin set up. The small tools used in smart ways create a strong support. Korean mid games are all the same. Jhin roams around, using W from Fog of War to create catches, helping his teammates in side lanes, and also trying to kill as many towers as they can for gold. But more interestingly, he can now also use ult as a catch tool. He uses it to control an area and force enemies to leave. This position he takes is practically a flank, catching them in an overextension, but Jhin is completely safe, getting 1 kill himself with the ult, and slowing the others for his teammates to catch up, leading to a triple kill thanks to Jin's range. Teamfights are totally unique, as Jhin Support has a whole bag of tricks, not just damage. Beryl plays them firstly as a setup champion, looking for a route to find an enemy they can pick off. He then turns to DPS mode, staying with his backline and ready to kill anyone who dives in. After this, his team are ahead in the fight, so he swaps to a chase strategy, again using W at super long range to get another kill, using ult to try and set up slows which would lead to extra kills, and those could lead to a big objective. And finally, still following up with another route for another kill. In the late game, Jhin Support is just the same as Jhin AD carry. He has huge attack damage and good damage output with his abilities. The main difference is that you have 2 AD carries on your team, so one of you can absorb the pressure, maybe die, while the other one cleans up. It's hard to kill both of you in a 5v5 fight. Now, the current best support pick on our tier list is Heimerdinger, something I've stood behind for over a year, much before Beryl even picked it or it became popular. I think it's been the best support in the whole game. However, Jhin beats Heimerdinger, so does that mean he's the new best off-meta support? I think Jhin Support is probably the most oppressive bot laner you can find. He's just like playing Lux support, except he actually does much higher damage, guaranteed every game, and he has traps to deny anyone from ever reaching him, as well as much longer range CC. The main downfall of Jhin Support is the difficulty. In a challenger player's hands, and in the right matchup, this will be a meta pick. But if you're not challenger, or if you're in a bad matchup like against a Blitzcrank, there's a good chance you could go 0-10. If Heimerdinger is the bar to reach, then Jhin beats him, but he struggles due to the lack of safety, which is something Heimerdinger never has to worry about thanks thanks to his turrets blocking skill shots. So I think overall Heimerdinger stays where he is, but I do expect we'll see a lot more Jhin support, and probably even some nerfs to his damage. Riot have a huge challenge ahead with this pick, as they can't nerf it without also nerfing AD carry Jhin, who isn't even that strong. For the full Korean build, we have this lethality build, with the great AD support item, Umbroglaive into more lethality, Eclipse for the shield safety and extra ability damage, into quite literally any AD lethality item, or even go Duskblade if you prefer the burst. There is also another build from a different challenger that I think is very smart. It's more expensive, going for Stormrazor into Rapid Fire. In exchange for this expense, you're granted a long-range auto attack that slows an enemy, which gives you the ability to instantly use W to root them, so anytime you auto attack a champion, that can set up a pick. The rune should always be Dark Harvest and Treasure Hunter for snowballing, and Biscuits to help you keep pressuring in lane. Our player bans Pyke most games. Any hook support is a pretty good counter. If you want to see more Jhin support, I'll leave some links in the description, and thanks again to Alienware for sponsoring this video. Link to buy a PC just like mine is in the description. Thanks so much for watching.